the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Martha in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Good morning.
Hi. Yes, sorry about that.
For a moment, I was going to say, Martha, you're very young to be calling the program.
Like, that's the youngest caller we've ever had, Patrick.
That would be my 1-year-old.
Okay.
I'm calling because I am the owner of a small business. It's the type of industry that we kind of draw the oddballs, if that makes sense. It's a dog business. And so I have a number of employees that are trans individuals.
Okay.
And I have the fullest respect for them. They're really valuable employees in the company. They're responsible. They're reliable. They do a great job. But I do struggle as a devout Catholic and as their boss to find a balance between respecting and honoring reality and truth and being able to interact with them in a way that is, I don't know if I want to say acceptable, but acceptable in our day-to-day interactions in the culture that we live in today. And I just, I can give you examples of how I kind of handle it right now, but I was curious of your thoughts on that.
Well, I have a few thoughts, but I'd be curious to know, you mentioned that you handled it a certain way. I'd be curious to know, what way is that?
Sure. Well, I'll give an example that came up recently. I have a trans staff member who was born a female and now, believes that she is a male, and very bubbly, very talented, young, but very interested in HR. And so it's kind of climbing the ranks in the company and taking on staffing stuff, and presented me with a new updated sheet for a getting to know you sheet for our new hires. And put on the top of it, what do you prefer to be called and what are your preferred pronouns? And I was like, I respect you a lot, and I know that you know that because we have a good relationship, right? But we just can't do this here. And, they accepted it and moved on, and it was fine. But then, yesterday, that same employee took the day off because she is proposing to her girlfriend and was so excited about it, talks about it all the time. And my instinct inside of me is to be excited because I'm so supportive of marriage and family and all of these things. But there's just this pit in my heart, and I just don't feel like I can say, good luck.
Yeah, and this is an awkward situation to be in for the reasons that you mentioned, and I think everybody understands. So how do we balance kindness and compassion and professionalism in the workplace, obviously, with at the same time not being drawn into somebody's delusion? How do you do that? My sense of it is that if you maintain this professional demeanor and they being the trans people who work for you, are doing their jobs adequately, appropriately, competently, etc., then I would just compartmentalize that, and I would just, treat them like any other employee with respect and all of the things. If they are not competent, then it would have nothing to do with their trans behavior, but just their inability to do the job. I mean, if you had to make a change and fire them or something like that. So I understand how you're in a position where you feel inwardly very conflicted. And yet, because you're an employer, there are certain things you can't do. There's certain things you can't say to them. It would be the same as if it were somebody's ethnicity or something else. This is a protected class under the law. So the law provides certain freedom from questions and things like that. You know all about that. In fact, you know better about that than I do because you're an employer. So my sense of it is that the way through this is to just be a kind, compassionate, even-handed, universally professional employer and not let their transness get in the way of that. Now, if they're trying to turn the workplace into a platform for their transness, or whatever the right term is, then you could say, you know what, that's not appropriate here. This is a place of work. All I ask is that you do your job and do it well. And you're not obligated to say congratulations, or you're not obligated to give a card or, go to a party or anything like that. And if I were in your position, I would probably try to be very arm's length about things like that so that you don't get drawn into a situation where then they complain to the state or, whoever the agency might be, that my employer is harassing me or something like that, the further you can stay away from anything that would create that kind of a situation, the better, if you ask me. So what do you think? I mean, I'm just throwing some random thoughts at you. How do they ring for you? Do these things sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, very much. It sounds like I've kind of been on that track. I feel so bad about it because I do care for these people, and I can just see it going so badly, so fast. Mm-hmm. And I worry about them.
Yeah, and rightfully so. They're carrying a humongous burden that they don't even realize. And this is all the more reason to have compassion on them, because, I mean, it's hard for me to even articulate how tragic the situation is. And they don't see it. They see it as a good thing. They see it as a desirable thing. And so I can easily understand your sense of being conflicted and your sorrow at this and not being able to, I mean, in a way, your hands are tied in certain respects. And that's just the nature of the relationship. I'd say do the best you can, compassion, kindness, competence, professionalism, and keep things arm's length. That way you're not liable to being drawn into something that they could turn around and bite you with.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate your thoughts on that. It helps affirm where I am. I'll continue to offer it back, hopefully for their souls.
Indeed. That's a great way to look at it. In the screening process for prospective employees, is there anything about their appearance or attire, et cetera, in working, I guess, with customers or anything? I mean, is there anything that would prevent you from, saying, well, I don't think you're right for this job? Or is it the kind of work where anybody who meets these certain qualifications could do this job, and it's not like it would have an effect on your customers or dealing with the public or something like that?
No, not really. Like I said, it's kind of the industry that draws the oddballs of society. And they're great people. They're kind of awkward and quiet usually to start, and then they kind of warm up over time. And that's any employee that I hire. But we work with dogs, and dogs don't judge, right? So that's kind of it's an all accepting sort of environment, and so those kind of people are drawn to that, and I think it's great. But I'm not necessarily looking to avoid it. I do take very seriously the idea of equal employment opportunities for people that need work. But yeah, it's becoming more and more of a struggle as more and more people show up at the door with these beliefs. And if I have anybody that shows up that seems belligerent about it or very pushy about it, then I tend to steer clear of them, and I'm able to kind of find ways to do that appropriately. But the ones that I have 2 on my staff right now. They're on like a supervisor level, and they're great. They're great at what they do. And one of them, like, you wouldn't even know. They pull it off, so to speak, so well that people don't even know. And it's just crazy.
Well, you sound like you're like a really great boss. They're lucky to have you as their boss. And I know you seek to be compassionate and kind and give respect to everybody. And that's a good thing. We should always strive to do that, and you already know that. So I'm hopeful that this won't cause you any heartburn, but the way you're handling it, the way you're describing it to me, sounds like it's probably the best possible way to go, doing what you're doing.
Good. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support, and I would appreciate prayers too.
Oh, you got it. You got it. So we'll begin praying for you, Martha, and your employees, and for God's grace and will to be in the doggy salon, when they're getting their... Do you do flea baths there? Do they even do those anymore? Is that a thing?
We don't do grooming. We train and do daycare and that sort of thing, so it's all playtime. Yeah.
Okay. Doggy daycare. Well... I wish you well, Martha. And, should things change one way or the other, if you ever want to call back and kind of give me an update, I'd be interested.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Patrick, for your time.
Like what you just heard? Share it with your family and friends. And thanks for listening.